The knight slowly lowers his halberd to the ground, his intention clear. Deathly silence and stillness takes hold of your immediate surroundings. Even the horrific screaming in the distance fades to insignificance as the world shrinks to the few feet between you. The heavy weight of realization dawns, that this shall be your first true trial. Hello and welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. I wasn't intending to do this video, but after some people asked for more gameplay of Elden Ring, I thought I would move a few things around the schedule and drop in a quick example of a boss fight. And so as not to spoil too much of anything, I am going to use the tutorial boss fight against the Tree Sentinel, which happens very early on in the game. It's not a particularly challenging encounter, it's designed to teach you how to deal with the bosses, but it's still a bit intimidating seeing the Tree Sentinel rock up on your table for the first time. In this fight I am going to play as the Prophet, a squishy healer who isn't really designed for facing bosses on her own. The Prophet starts with 4 wounds, 6 focus points and a combat hand size of 4 cards. She is armed with a finger seal that gives her 3 healing spells and 3 catch fire spells, and she has a rickety shield which gives her 2 fend off block cards and 2 divine protection block cards. She is wearing Prophet robes which let her draw a combat card if she blocks all of the incoming damage from an attack, an ability I will promptly forget about in the playthrough. All Tarnished have a class ability and the Prophet's is really powerful. Once per turn, she may treat any one symbol on an attribute card as if it's a faith symbol. This means she is very consistent at triggering the special effects on her combat cards. All Tarnished also have 2 flasks, one Crimson Tears flask that restores all of their health points, and one Cerulean Tears flask that restores all of their focus points. Additionally, by the time you get to the first boss, you will have had a chance to explore and gain Stakes of Marika, so I will have 2 for this playthrough, and each Tarnished will have 20 runes. I have spent mine to gain a trait that increases my focus points by 2 to the maximum of 8, and to replace one of my common attribute cards with a card that has a faith symbol and a common symbol on it. The more faith symbols the Prophet has access to, the better. And with all of that sorted out, let's see if we can weasel our way out of being skewered to death by a bad-tempered knight on a horse. So here we are, we have set up the battlefield for our confrontation with the Tree Sentinel. And I should point out, you will notice a difference in the sound quality for this part of the video. I am using a new microphone, I'm still trying to get to grips with it. Let's just see how we get on. And because this is a boss battle, we are using a much larger battlefield than we normally would. We pushed together all 4 of the encounter booklets to create this battlefield. And if you watched my review of Elden Ring, you will already know the basics of how this works. The battlefield is divided into 2 sections. The enemies are in the top half of the board, while the Tarnished are in the bottom half of the board. And the board is divided into columns and rows. Columns define your position in relation to the enemies, whilst the rows define your stance. There are 3 rows in the hero side of the board. The bottom row is stand fast. While you are in that row, you are in a defensive posture. You will get to draw more cards when defending. The middle row is reposition. If you are in this row, you have an opportunity to rearrange the initiative cards to get a better chance of activating before your opponent. The top row is critical hit. While you are in this row, you are in an offensive stance and you will draw more cards when attacking. There is one more row of note, it is on the enemy's side of the board. It is called critical hit as well. This does not mean that the enemy in that row will be able to use a critical hit against you. It means if an enemy is in that row, they have opened themselves up to a critical hit and you will get to draw an additional card when attacking them. Having created the board and positioned the Tree Sentinel, we need to place our Tarnished. And we are going to go there in the reposition row. The reason being, we are very, very squishy. We are really up against it with the Tree Sentinel. He hits hard, he hits fast, he hits often. So we want to be in the reposition row so that we can hopefully activate before he does and cause some damage. Speaking of damage, we need to set the hit point level for our boss. The number of hit points varies depending on the number of heroes. For this confrontation with just a single hero, we set it to 30. We have absolutely no chance of inflicting 30 hit points on this guy before he kills us. We are going to have to go for plan B, staggering him. This is a special rule for this particular boss fight. If we can stagger him 3 times, then we will be able to escape and we win the fight. The last thing we need to do is set the initiative deck for the first round. The Tree Sentinel has 6 behaviour cards, and we are told that in each round he will be using 3 of those behaviour cards. So we shuffle his deck, randomly draw 3, and then we add 2 of our own initiative cards. Normally a Tarnished only adds a single initiative card, but if you are playing solo you get to add 2, which means you will activate twice per round. This deck will then be shuffled. But before we reveal the initiative order for the first round, we have to draw our opening hand. And this is not a bad opening hand. We could mulligan this if we wanted to, but it's a decent mix. We have 1 shield card, a Divine Protection, we have 2 heals, and then we have a Catch Flame. Catch Flame is how we are going to win this fight. It is a very powerful attack, and we can spend focus points to add stagger to the effects of the attack. If we do that 3 times, we will win. With that done, we can reveal our initiative order for the first round. And the way the cards have fallen isn't too bad for us at all. First the Tree Sentinel will activate, then we will activate twice, and then the Tree Sentinel will activate twice. And taking a quick look at the cards that are being used here, I think we do not want to use the reposition ability. Because we are in that middle row, if we wanted to, we could take one of our initiative cards and move it left or right on the track, swapping places with an enemy card. Effectively, we could move to the head of the queue and activate before the Tree Sentinel. However, because the Tree Sentinel isn't in a good position for us to attack at the moment, it actually works out better for us to let him come to us. That being the case, first the Tree Sentinel will make a leap attack. We look at his behaviour card, we work through the rows one by one. The first row tells us that he will move left or right 1 space towards the closest Tarnished. If he cannot do that, he will instead move backwards 1 row. That means he will move here. The second row of the behaviour card says that he repeats that same process. So he moves again. The third action on his behaviour card says that he will hit the first Tarnished on each of the columns directly in front of him for 4 damage, which means we have been struck. We now have 2 ways to mitigate that damage. Firstly, we can discard combat cards from our hand. Each combat card has a value in the top right corner, which is how much damage we can negate by discarding the card. So we could reduce the incoming damage by 1 by discarding this heal. Secondly, we could play a block card, resolving the effects of that card. We are going to do a combination of the 2. First, I will discard my heal card, which will block 1 damage. Then I will play my Divine Protection card, and we will see how that works out for us. To resolve the block, we draw an attribute card. If we were in the stand fast row, we would draw 2 attribute cards and pick the one that is best for us. Alas, we are not, so we only draw the 1. And it's a faith card. That is not great, because if we look at our Divine Protection card, we can see that for a faith symbol, we can block 1 incoming damage. It would also restore 1 of our focus points if we had spent any focus points, which we have not. So in total we have blocked 2 incoming damage, we take 2 damage. We are very squishy, we only started with 4 health points in the first place. This goes down to 2. Now it is our turn to retaliate. We have only 2 cards in our hand, we have a heal and we have a Catch Flame. We are going to use the Catch Flame. Ideally, I would like to move forwards into the critical hit row, which would allow me to draw 2 attribute cards when I attack. However, that isn't going to work for me because I can see that the Tree Sentinel has some really big hits coming up later in the initiative track. I need to make sure I can make this attack and have enough movement points afterwards to run away. So I'm going to attack from the middle row. And if we look at the Catch Flame card, we can see it is going to cost us 3 focus points to use. It will attack 1 enemy of our choosing in any of the 3 columns directly in front of us. If we can draw a Faith attribute, it will do 3 damage, but more importantly, we can spend focus to apply stagger to the effect. So we play that card and we draw an attribute card to see what happens. We have drawn a card that has a Faith symbol and a common symbol. Now the common symbol doesn't normally do anything on a Catch Flame attack. However, the Prophet has a special ability that states once per turn he can convert any symbol into a Faith symbol. So this card actually has 2 Faith symbols on it for the purposes of this attack. In other words, we have hit the Tree Sentinel twice. Each of those hits will inflict 3 points of damage. So we adjust the Sentinel's health tracker down to 24. We also have to adjust our focus tracker because it cost us 3 focus points to cast the spell, and we are going to spend an additional focus point in order to add stagger to the effect, because this is going to get us a third of the way to victory. Our first stagger token. We will pop it there on the side of the board as a reminder. Now, whenever a Tarnished card comes up in the initiative, you get 3 actions. So far, we have spent a single action in order to cast Catch Flame. That gives us 2 actions for the current activation. And we are simply going to use both of those to move. We are moving 2 spaces to the right. Now, where we are at the moment, the next time the Tree Sentinel activates, he is going to wallop us for 7 points of damage. Fortunately, we have a second initiative card, which gives us another 3 actions. We are going to use all 3 of those actions to move as far to the right as possible. And there's a very good reason for that, because now the Tree Sentinel will activate. His second behaviour card in the initiative track is called Stab. He will move 1 space to the right, and then he attacks in front of him for 7 damage. He completely misses. But now he will charge. First of all, he will move 2 spaces left or right towards the closest Tarnished, so he is going to move 2 spaces to the right. He will then attack the 2 columns directly in front of him for 5 damage. And now you can see why I moved as far right as possible, because he misses again. The third action on the charge card is that he advances 1 space forwards. That's good for us because he is now in the critical hit row, and that means we have more chance to inflict damage on him. But that is the end of the current round. The 3 boss cards we have used so far are set aside, and we will now create a new initiative deck with our 2 cards and the 3 remaining boss cards that we haven't yet used. So at the start of the second round, we have an initiative order that begins with the Sentinel. Then we will activate, then the Sentinel activates twice, and then we will activate at the very end of the round. Now, looking at the behaviour cards in the initiative track, this has actually worked out really well for us, because the Sentinel is going to travel off to the left, and he is going to swing wildly, missing us every single time. But before he does that, it would be nice if we could get another hit on him if possible. Therefore, as we are in the reposition row of the battlefield, we are going to use the reposition ability to move our first initiative card left 1 space on the initiative track. That means we will activate first. We now have 3 actions available to us, and the first thing we are going to have to do is spend an action to draw up to our hand size. And this is really good for us. We have another Catch Flame, another Divine Protection, and we have a Fend Off. So we have loads of defensive stuff, and we have another attack card which we can use to stagger the Tree Sentinel again. So for our second action, we are going to attack. Once again, Catch Flame is going to cost us 3 focus points, and we will spend an additional focus point in order to apply stagger to the effect of the attack. And as an extra bonus, the Tree Sentinel is standing in the critical hit row, which means we draw 2 attribute cards. The first one is a Faith card that would inflict 3 points of damage. The second card is even better. It is a Faith symbol and a common symbol, and because of the Prophet special ability, we can convert that common symbol into another Faith symbol, which means we can inflict 6 points of damage with stagger. That is going to take our Tree Sentinel down to 18 hit points. And of course, we will apply our second stagger token. We must not forget to reduce our focus points, and we have a problem. We have 0 focus points left. Uh-oh. But we don't really need to worry about that. We came into this battle with a flask of Cerulean Tears. For our third action in this activation, we can spend this flask to completely restore our focus points. We are back to 8. That is the end of our activation, so now the Tree Sentinel will perform Stab. It is going to move 1 space to the left. It's then going to wildly stab in front of it and completely miss us. Next, it's going to perform a rearing swing. First, it moves one space left. It then does a massive swing that would hit the first Tarnished in each of the 4 columns directly in front of it. That would have been a really bad time for us, but we are out of the area of effect of that attack. So we go on to the final action of the behaviour card, and it is an either or situation. The Tree Sentinel will either move one space to the left. If it cannot do that, it will instead move one space backwards. So it moves one space to the left. And now, clearly annoyed, he is going to perform a rearing slam. He has realised he is in completely the wrong place and he is coming back to deal with us. He moves one space to the right. He makes an attack that would hit every Tarnished in the 2 columns directly in front of him, but of course we aren't there. He will then either move one space to the right or one space backwards if he cannot, so he moves one space to the right. And now it is our turn to activate. We have 3 actions, and we really are up against the wall here. There is a very good chance that on his next activation, the Tree Sentinel will be able to pin us down and stab us up. We need to prepare accordingly. First of all, we are going to use a heal ability. Heal will cost us 1 focus point. We draw an attribute card and we heal according to the symbols on that card. We have taken 2 damage, we would like at least 2 back. And we have drawn a faith symbol which will restore 2 points of damage. So we are back to our maximum of 4 hit points, but we did spend 1 focus point in order to cast that spell. We have 2 actions remaining. We are going to use our second action to draw up to our hand size. We already have 2 cards in our hand, so we will just draw 2 more. And it was a really good pull. We got a heal card, but we also got our 3rd Catch Flame card, which does put us in a very good position to win this fight. We just need to make sure we survive long enough to use that Catch Flame card, which means for our 3rd and final action of this activation, we are going to move backwards into the Stand Fast row. This will give us a better chance of blocking incoming damage. And that is the end of the 2nd round of the combat. As we have worked through all 6 of the Tree Sentinel's cards, we will take all 6, shuffle them back up, and then deal out 3 at random to add to our own 2 initiative cards for the 3rd round. Going into turn 3, the Tree Sentinel will be activating first again, and he is going to be able to hit us. That is bad news for us. However, we will then get to activate before the Tree Sentinel activates 2 more times, and then we activate at the very end. Unfortunately, we are no longer in the reposition row, so we cannot do anything about this turn order. We just have to deal with it. And that means, first and foremost, having to deal with getting punched in the face. The Tree Sentinel's behaviour card Charge says he will move 2 spaces left or right towards the closest Tarnished, so he is coming 2 spaces to the right towards us. He then attacks for 5 damage. That would be enough to kill us instantly if we didn't block some of it. I don't feel like dying today, so I am going to burn 3 cards to save myself. First, I'm going to discard Heal and Fend Off for 1 block each. That reduces the incoming damage to 3. Then I'm going to play Divine Protection, and because I am in the Stand Fast row, I can draw 2 attribute cards and pick the one I like the best. The first card is 3 common symbols, and Divine Protection does block 1 incoming damage for each common symbol you apply, so I could actually block all 3 points of incoming damage with this 1 card. And the second card is a single common symbol, so obviously I'm going to take the card that has the 3 common symbols on it, and that will block all of that incoming damage. That is amazing. Point of interest, if I had not been able to block that damage and I had suffered 4 points of damage and been defeated, it would not have been the end of the game for me. I have 2 stakes of Marika in my possession. If you are defeated in combat when you have one of these stakes, you discard the stake, you place your Tarnished on any space on the board you want, you draw back up to your hand size, restore your health to maximum, and you carry on. That does seem quite forgiving, but you have to go on explorations in order to get stakes of Marika, and you can only have a certain number in your possession based on the number of players in the game. In the solo game, you can have a maximum of 4. So while they are an important lifeline, you do have to be careful you don't burn through them too quickly or too frivolously, and you will occasionally need to go on exploration missions in order to acquire more. Right, having blocked that attack, we can finish the Tree Sentinel's activation. We can see that under the damage symbol on his behaviour card, there is a move forward symbol. That means if he actually carries out that attack, he gets to move forward. However, he is already as far forward as he can get. No enemy is allowed to cross the red line, no Tarnished is allowed to cross the red line. That also means the third action on his behaviour card, which is move forward, is also ignored. And now it is time for our prophet to seal the deal. We have one card in our hand. It is Catch Flame. We know the deal by now. We are going to spend 3 focus points to cast a spell. We will spend an additional focus point in order to apply stagger, and that will be it for this combat. Before we do anything else, we will reduce our focus by 4. Taking it down to 3, and you can see how very quickly the Prophet burns through these focus points, as we have already used our Cerulean Tears for this combat. Next we draw our attribute cards, and even though we are in the Stand Fast row, we still draw 2 cards because the Tree Sentinel is in a critical hit row. First card. That's 3 common symbols. Common symbols don't do anything with Catch Flame. Second card. That is a single faith symbol, and that is all we need. Do bear in mind, even if we hadn't drawn this card with the faith symbol, we still would have been okay because the Prophet has an ability that allows them to turn one symbol into a faith symbol each turn, so we still would have been successful. Speaking of successful, we hit the Tree Sentinel once for 3 points of damage, taking him down to 15. That is the halfway point, but fortunately for us, we will also be applying stagger. We apply our third and final stagger token. And that is it. The Tree Sentinel reels from the final attack, and while he is recovering, we sneak into the undergrowth and get the heck out of dodge. We are victorious. And that went very well indeed, but there are a few things to note. First of all, this is only a trial boss. Its main purpose is to introduce you to the mechanisms of a boss fight. It is not really supposed to batter you all that badly. You will face the Tree Sentinel again later on, and he will show no mercy. The second thing to remember, the number of times you have to stagger him will increase if there are more Tarnished in the game. For example, with a full team of 4 Tarnished on the board, you will have to stagger him 5 times. Third thing to remember, with more Tarnished in play, each Tarnished player only gets 1 initiative card in the initiative order each round. And that is a very different experience. Rather than getting 6 actions per turn, you are only getting 3. It is much harder to get out of the way of attacks, and you will find that even if you get out of the way of an attack, there's a very good chance your friend is still going to get clobbered. But I think that's going to about do it for this video. Hopefully you have enjoyed this slightly longer look at the combat elements of Elden Ring. It's a game I have been really enjoying. If you haven't checked out my full review for it, you will find a link to that in the video description below, and I am out of here. Thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so, and hopefully I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.